Hello everyone and welcome to another Speedpaint / Speed Pixel. Here we are doing another one. What is going on? What is going on? It's like I'm a productivity machine, and I wish that was the case because holy cow, this one was tricky. I enjoyed it and I didn't. It was a nightmare and it wasn't. That's all I'll say. There was plenty of heavy sighing going on throughout this whole adventure, ordeal, whichever you want to call it. So you probably saw there at the start there was a couple of images from older pieces that are possibly used, unused in various different ways in the game currently. I've pinched some mountains from another piece and I've repurposed those to try and come up with a bit of a sketch and kind of then piece everything together. So obviously video game development is great to help me with stuff like this because it repurposes old assets and things like that. So that's where my sort of background's always been, was around video game development. I've never done it. I'm confusing people now. I have never been a video game developer. I studied it a lot and wanted to be, but never was. Okay, glad we cleared that up. So the processes I use are similar. So reusing assets is something that I think is fun, cool. It lends a certain what's the word I'm looking for? Continuity, shall we say, between pieces. So you can see that these mountains are very similar colour, and then that lends itself to bringing the world together and making it more cohesive. Hence why I started using a colour palette. Probably explained that in one of the other videos too, so if I'm repeating myself, I do apologise. So what we've got here is the basic layout of the background. I knew that's what I wanted, big mountains in the background, this sort of castle in the middle, and there's a few different sketches in my sketchbook that I think looked great, and not a single one of them translated to the pixel art in the way that I wanted to. There was just maybe a lack of knowledge, probably a lack of knowledge, maybe a lack of skill, probably a lack of skill. There's a lot obviously that goes into this pixel art malarkey, and landscapes and stuff like that have never been something that I've ever pursued properly. I've always been more portrait and character art. So this was particularly challenging to get like the perspective right, and unsurprisingly there's not a lot of reference material for medieval castles on a hill in the middle of some kind of lagoon between two glacial mountains with a staircase leading up to them. There's just not many of them. Feel free to prove me wrong. Link me in the comments because that would be fantastic, and then I could improve the piece. But for now, that's where we are. So currently I'm doing the mountains, the sort of rocky lead up to this castle. I wasn't happy with the sandy colour from the original, so went with like a icy blue, and the icy blue was too blue. So I've gone for like this kind of darkened brown, I guess. I know it's browny, but it's sort of a reddy brown. Started painting in some of the snow on there to kind of block stuff in, so I'm really unsure of how it looks at this point. And I distinctly remember thinking, let's just get the main elements in, let's get everything in and try to figure out what the whole thing looks like from a macro sort of perspective, and then go into the detail, which is generally I think how it works. But it felt particularly frustrating on this one because my sketches just didn't really translate, like I said before. So going through all of this was just like stop start, and very frustrating, because you can see like even trying to get these pink things, they're just so that I can get a colour to stand off and try and get a sense of what the piece would look like when it's finished. And I gotta be honest, even at this point I was like, nah, it's not working, I don't like it. There's plenty of breaks in here that you don't see because the piece obviously took a lot longer to do than this. I don't work this quickly. The whole thing probably, if you totaled it all up, it's about 6 hours and I think it was 6 hours and 14 minutes, all the pieces added together, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was over about 2 weeks, just for reasons really. But here we are, adding in some more of this kind of visual interest, trying to create a bit of a plateau, a reason why these steps might exist, from the castle, and obviously to the castle, you get into the castle, but leading up to it you want some kind of, I don't know, I think I envisaged it as a fountain to start with, and then like a portal, and then just like maybe a sacred ground or something like that, so that you could rest there and feel refreshed, kind of thing. But yeah, I quite like what I added in the end. But that's obviously spoilers. Just had to take a quick pause for noise, background noise. So we're back recording. The snowy sort of mountains here, the brown was really annoying me. It reminded me too much of Christmas cake. Maybe I was hungry, maybe I wasn't, maybe I just fancied Christmas cake, but throughout the whole thing, I really wasn't happy with it. I've started getting used to this because I don't think I've been happy with any of them until you get to like almost the very end, which is why you'll see me hop from bit to bit. So you can see I'll go from the mountains to the stairs to the castle, and yeah, you think I'll leave that, I'll do that bit, and then I'll leave that because it's not right, so I'll move on to something else, and then you do the same with the next bit, and then the next bit, and then the next bit, and then the next bit. So yeah, it's good fun, but it's the result is the fun bit. I really like when it's finished and you really do start to see it all coming together. And obviously I offer the like a cycle of feedback to my wife and ask her what she thinks of it when I get to a point where I think, I know it's not done, but it's getting somewhere and I like the direction it's going. What do I need to do to get it right? And so then she quite often will give me some helpful, constructive advice, even if I don't always like it. She's always right, most of the time. So yeah, here we are, just trying to block in a little bit more, a little bit more stuff. But you can see there I wrote, I don't like it. It was really not working for me at this point. And we're nearly 8 minutes and 32 into the video, so that would be roughly 2.5 to 3 hours in. So I spent 3 hours working on this so far, and I'm frustrated. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look how I wanted. They say the sketches in my book, it just didn't look how I wanted it to. So, but I've learned through my long life so far to when to persevere and when to not, and this was definitely one of those where I wanted to persevere. So we carry on, we just keep working, just keep working. And so this, I'm putting some kind of, trying to do a bit of a foreground, like a foreshortening thing, so it's more close up. This is where, say, the adventurers would be stood. It's an extreme foreground, so your viewpoint is onto this castle. Ideally there's some kind of steep hill on the other side or something leading up to that kind of portal area. And I thought, let's make it even more obvious this is the foreground, so we put in a nice sword stuck in the ground. And then that started annoying me because it wasn't the right size. So Yeah, I'm just giving you a bit of insight into how my brain works while I do these, and you can sit there every single time you see a pixel art that I do, think, God, how annoyed must he have been doing this one? Very is always the answer. I do enjoy the result. I gotta just reiterate that the results are the best bit. Getting there is always the tricky bit. You're supposed to enjoy the journey, not the destination, but in my case it's almost certainly the other way around. But I do it because this game needs to exist and people need to play it, because honestly the game itself is just exactly what so many people need. I promise. If you've not played it already, I can't wait. Honestly, I cannot wait to share this with people, because you're gonna love it. It's like, yeah, it's the perfect game. For me anyway, it's the perfect game. Maybe not for you, it's definitely the perfect game for me. So here we are, blocking that sword, trying to light the sword a little bit more convincingly, trying to bear in mind the position of the sort of sky lighting and things like that, as well as reflecting some of the colours around it, the greys and the blues of kind of that glacial lake, as well as the floor. So we kind of try and work into some of those colours as well, and sort of contrasting the brown of the handle with some of the other stuff. So there I'm mixing in a 50% grey. So essentially there's a black and white palette, totally desaturated palette, and then 50% opacity. Mix that with some of the brighter colours of the blues and the greens, so that it's less saturated. So I'm trying to limit my colour palette as much as possible, but I also realise that to get the look that I want, I probably don't possess the level of knowledge and skill to do that with such a limited colour palette. So I mean, big mad respect to pixel artists of old who would be able to do this with like 15 colours and, and nothing else. It definitely gives me a renewed appreciation for old titles like the Super Mario Brothers and stuff like that. So here we go. It's just doing that turret there. It looked a bit too complicated, so I've tried to simplify things by just hinting at bricks rather than doing individual bricks and trying to make it look exactly like realistic. And I find that works quite well with the sort of perspective and the distance of this castle, basically. And this is where I start believing in myself again. I'm like, okay. So we're nearly 5 hours in to the painting, about 4.5. Now is the point where I go, actually, I think this might be okay. I think it might be okay. So this is where I snip it, save it, and I believe that was a work in progress that ended up on the Patreon page, because I thought, okay, this is worth sharing now. People might want to see this. People might enjoy it. And so yeah, this was where I started enjoying myself and adding in those finishing touches. I love doing snow. Snow is my favourite. Whenever there's a snow level in a video game, snow levels are my favourite. So doing things with these sort of cold colours was quite therapeutic in the end. And there we go, it's all coming together. It's all coming together. I don't know if at some point I desaturated the rocks as well. I might have missed that, because the rocks went a further 25% down, I think, from saturation, because they were just too brown and it was too much like cake. So yeah, trying to keep these shapes quite basic rather than overcomplicate them with too many different textures and all that sort of stuff, because again, from this distance you're not going to see all those individual bricks, eh? So keeping it realistic to a degree, even though it's pixel art, you've got to keep it real. And then some snow caps on these kind of spiky rock formations that are a little bit further back and down. Now it's time to work on the mountains in the distance. And just sort of blend those in a little bit more. Because they're, even though they're in the background, they would stand out like a sore thumb if they weren't done properly. So I spent a bit of time trying to make those look about as in the right place as they're supposed to, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't. I don't even think I make sense. So here we are. Some additional shading and stuff. And then just hints of snow on those sort of little peaks and things like that. Trying to blend it in with the sky as well, so using some of the sky. Moving everything about a bit, composition wise. I wasn't happy with how low the castle was. It didn't look the right position for where that foreground is. So we've raised that shrine bit, put it up on like almost like a rock type, like a pedestal-y type thing, like the castle's on, almost. On its own little flat area of land. And it's like, yeah, let's have a look, let's reflect. Do more to the mountains. Watching myself back is crazy because it's literally like going from one piece to another. And you think, well, okay, well, I was working on that, but like I was working on the right hand side of the mountains, and then I got to the left, and then the right again. And it's just stick to one bit, man. You're all over the place. Left, right, left, right. Why do I do this? Why do I do this? Checking through all the different layers, making sure it all works. And now this is like the last bit. Focus on the foreground, get the reflections in, get the sword done, try and make that look, I mean I tried making it look shiny. Don't know if it succeeded. You tell me in the comments below. Did it make the sword look shiny? Let me know. Because I thought adding in some of the different colours away from the main colour kind of helps, and then adding in a couple of dots of the other colours, so like the oranges as a slight reflection from the castle glow in the sword blade, you'll see that in a second, and then some of the greens are like that grassy bit on the steps. See if the shrine thing still worked. It didn't. We're happy with the portal on the floor kind of thing. And then this is pretty much it. It's all getting put into the card, moved around, had to modify it slightly because the scale was a little bit off. Bring those colours in. And that's it. Thanks for watching everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.